What if I told you that every closed door, every sleepless night, every moment you thought God had forgotten your name was actually Him preparing you for right now? What if the very pain you've been carrying was the exact weight required to build the strength you'll need for what's coming next? And what if the reason you clicked on this video wasn't random at all, but a divine interruption orchestrated by heaven itself? Listen to me, chosen one. There are moments in your life when heaven steps into your timeline without warning, when the veil between the seen and unseen grows thin, when God stops whispering and starts moving with thunderous precision. This right here, right now, is one of those moments. You didn't stumble onto this message by accident. You were led here, guided, called, because something in the spiritual realm has shifted, and your name was just spoken in rooms you cannot see. I know you're tired. I know you've prayed prayers that felt like they hit the ceiling and fell back down. I know you've cried in silence, wondering if anyone, even God, still remembers what you asked for, what you've been believing for, what's been promised over your life. But here's the shocking truth they don't want you to know. Your delay was never denial. Your waiting was never wasted. And your silence, it was never abandonment. It was preparation. God has been moving in the shadows of your life, arranging things you couldn't see, aligning people you haven't met, orchestrating moments that will soon collide with your reality in ways that will leave you breathless. This is not another sermon you'll forget by tomorrow. This is not religious noise to fill your ears. This is your divine appointment, your sacred download, your moment of confirmation that what you've been sensing in your spirit is real. Heaven is drawing the curtain back, and what's about to be revealed will silence every voice that told you it was over. You were too late, or you missed your window. Before we go any deeper, and we're going deep, I need you to do something. If this word is already stirring something ancient in your soul, if you feel that holy knowing rising in your chest, type "I receive it" in the comments right now. Let heaven hear your yes. Let your faith collide with this moment, because agreement activates the impossible. And to every single one of you who has supported this message through Super, thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just giving, you're partnering with a frequency of faith that spreads light to souls who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates deep in your spirit, go ahead and press that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. You're not just sharing a video, you're becoming a messenger of hope. Now, let me show you what God is about to do, because everything you need is coming. Can you see it now? Can you finally see that every moment you felt forgotten was actually the moment God was setting the stage? That every night you cried yourself to sleep, heaven was working overtime on your behalf. Let me ask you something that might shake you awake. What if the hardest season of your life wasn't God punishing you, but God positioning you for something so big, so divine, so specifically tailored to your destiny, that it required complete isolation to prepare you for it, chosen one? Listen to me carefully. The loneliness wasn't random. The loss wasn't meaningless. The unanswered prayers that made you question everything, they weren't signs of God's absence. They were evidence of His precision. You weren't being overlooked. You were being set apart. There's a massive difference between being forgotten and being carefully prepared in private. And it's time you understood which one was happening to you. You thought the silence meant God had moved on to someone more worthy, someone more faithful, someone who didn't fail as much as you did. But that's the lie the enemy whispered while God was building something in secret. Because here's what they don't tell you in church. The greatest moves of God happen in the hidden places in the wilderness, in the waiting rooms, where no one is watching and no one is applauding. That's where champions are made. That's where the chosen are refined. Look at Joseph. Thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, locked in prison for years. Years chosen one. Not days, not weeks. Years of wondering if God remembered the dream He gave him as a boy. But here's what Joseph couldn't see from inside that prison cell. God was using every betrayal, every injustice, every lonely night to position him for a palace. The pit wasn't punishment, it was preparation. The prison wasn't the end, it was the passageway. And the pain was the exact pressure needed to transform a dreamer into a deliverer who would save nations from famine. Think about David, anointed as king while still a teenager, then sent back to the sheep, back to the fields, back to obscurity. Can you imagine that, having a prophet pour oil on your head declaring you're chosen for the throne, and then nothing? Years of running from Saul, hiding in caves, living like a fugitive when he'd done nothing wrong. But in those caves, in that wilderness, in those endless days of waiting, God was doing something David couldn't perceive. He was teaching him to worship in the darkness. He was training him to trust when nothing made sense. He was removing the pride that would have destroyed him if he'd been given the crown too soon. The wilderness wasn't wasted time, it was boot camp for royalty. You thought you were being broken, but you were being shaped. Like clay on a potter's wheel, spinning so fast, it feels violent, pressed down so hard, it feels like destruction. But the potter isn't breaking you. He's forming you. He's creating something that didn't exist before. Something that can hold weight. Something that can carry purpose. Something that won't crack under pressure, because it was forged in fire and refined through friction. You cried. Heaven noticed. You waited. Heaven was working. You trusted when it made no sense. And heaven recorded every single moment of your faith as evidence that you were ready. Because this is what people miss. God doesn't just give you what you want. He prepares you to handle what you've been asking for. And sometimes that preparation looks like pain. Sometimes it feels like delay. Sometimes it appears as if you've been placed on a shelf and forgotten. But chosen one shelves are where valuable things are stored until they're needed. And you've been stored in the secret place, hidden in the shadow of the Almighty, protected from premature exposure, shielded from attacks that would have destroyed you if you'd been visible too soon. The silence wasn't God's absence. It was his strategy. The isolation wasn't abandonment. It was incubation. The waiting wasn't wasted. It was your training ground for the overflow that's about to flood your life. Can you feel it shifting now? Can you sense that something's different? That's because the season is changing. The preparation is complete. And what's about to happen next will prove that every tear had purpose. Every trial had meaning, and every moment of your hidden season was building toward this exact moment of divine release. So, let me ask you one final question before we move forward. Are you ready to stop seeing your past as punishment and start recognizing it as preparation? Because what God is about to do will require everything you learned in the dark. Type, "I'm ready," if your waiting season taught you something sacred. Type it if you finally understand that you weren't forgotten, you were being formed. Because what's coming next demands that you step into this with full awareness that you've been qualified by the very pain you thought disqualified you. Now here's where everything changes. Here's where the script flips. Because there's a moment, a sacred, undeniable moment, when heaven stops waiting and starts moving. And chosen one, you're standing at the edge of that moment right now. Let me tell you something that will shift your entire perspective. You cannot chase what God has already assigned to deliver to you. You can't hustle your way into divine timing. You can't manipulate, negotiate, or force your way into what heaven has already scheduled for your life. This isn't about your effort anymore. This is about alignment. This is about recognizing that the same God who parted the Red Sea, who stopped the sun in the sky, who spoke worlds into existence with a word, that same God is orchestrating every detail of your breakthrough right now. And he doesn't need your help. He needs your trust. Can you feel it? That shift in the atmosphere around you. That's not anxiety. That's not coincidence. That's the spiritual realm responding to divine instruction. Because when God moves, everything moves. The winds shift direction. The waters part on command. Systems that seemed immovable suddenly realign themselves around you. Doors that were welded shut fly open without you even touching them. People who never noticed you suddenly remember your name. Opportunities that passed you by circle back with urgency. Why? Because heaven just issued a decree over your life, and creation itself has no choice but to obey. This is what people don't understand about divine timing. They think it's slow. They think it's passive. They think waiting means nothing is happening. But that's because they're measuring spiritual movement with natural eyes. They're trying to track heaven's activity with earthly calendars. But God doesn't operate on your schedule. He operates on sacred moments, divine appointments, prophetic convergences. And when those moments arrive, everything accelerates. What took years to break suddenly crumbles in seconds. What seemed impossible yesterday becomes inevitable today. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's what it looks like when God moves. Imagine an orchestra, a massive world-class orchestra filled with hundreds of musicians, each holding their instrument, each assigned their part. But before the symphony begins, there's a season that looks like chaos. There's tuning, there's adjustment, violins being tightened, drums being positioned, trumpets checking their tone. To the untrained ear, it sounds like noise. It looks disorganized. It feels like nothing beautiful could possibly come from this mess. But the conductor knows. The conductor can hear the symphony before a single note is played, because every discordant sound, every adjustment, every tuning, it's all preparation for the moment when he lifts his hand and everything comes together in perfect harmony. Chosen one. While you were waiting, heaven's orchestra was tuning every instrument for your breakthrough symphony. Every delay was a necessary adjustment. Every closed door was repositioning. Every loss was removing what would have been out of tune with your destiny. And now, the conductor, the God of angel armies, the King of heaven, the Alpha and Omega, is about to lift his hand. And when he does, everything that seemed random will suddenly make perfect sense. Every piece will fit. Every player will know their cue. And the sound that comes from your life will be so perfectly orchestrated that even your enemies will have to admit God is with you. But here's what's wild. Here's what will blow your mind. The release has already been set in motion. You can't see it yet because it's happening in the realm of the spirit first. But it's moving. Right now, as you're hearing these words, there are angels being dispatched. There are divine connections being formed. There are resources being redirected toward you. There are opportunities being held in place until you arrive. There are conversations happening in rooms you haven't entered yet, and your name is being mentioned by people who don't even know you. Why? Because heaven is preparing the way before you get there. God is moving ahead of you, clearing paths, opening doors, shifting atmospheres, rearranging circumstances so that when you step into that space, everything is already aligned for your success. This is what Isaiah 45:2 means when God says, "I will go before you and level the mountains. I will break down gates of bronze and cut through bars of iron." You're not breaking down the gates. God already went ahead and shattered them. You're not leveling the mountains. God already flattened the road. Your job isn't to make a way. Your job is to walk in the way that's already been made. That's the difference between striving and flow. Striving is exhausting. Flow is effortless. Striving says, "I have to make this happen." Flow says, "God is making this happen through me." Striving drains you. Flow fills you. And right now, you're transitioning from striving into flow. You know what's about to shock you. How fast things change once God gives the signal. You've been waiting for years, maybe decades, for something to shift. And it felt like forever. It felt like nothing would ever change. But when God moves, years of delay get compensated in weeks. Decades of drought get reversed in days. Generations of lack get broken in moments. Because God doesn't just restore what was lost. He accelerates the timeline to make up for every season the enemy tried to steal. That's what Joel 2:25 promises. "I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten." Not some of the years, not a portion, all of it. Restored, redeemed, returned with interest. Even time bends when destiny commands. You think you're behind. You're not. You think you missed your window. You didn't. You think it's too late. It's not. Because the God who created time isn't bound by it. He can compress decades into moments. He can stretch seconds into eternity. And when he decides it's your time, nothing, not age, not circumstances, not past mistakes, not current limitations, nothing can stop what he's already set in motion. The question isn't whether it's coming. The question is, are you ready to receive it when it arrives? If your spirit is sensing movement right now, if something inside you is stirring, if you feel that holy anticipation rising in your chest, if you know deep down that this message is confirmation of what God has been whispering to you in private type, it's moving. Don't ignore that inner witness. That's not emotion. That's alignment. That's your spirit recognizing heaven's rhythm. Type, "It's moving," and watch what God does when you agree with his timing. Because here's what's happening in this very moment. Heaven is watching to see who will align before they see. Who will believe before they hold it. Who will thank God before the answer arrives. That's the faith that activates breakthrough. That's the agreement that releases divine momentum. And you're about to discover that the moment you stop trying to make it happen and start flowing with what's already happening, everything changes. The movement has begun. The orchestration is in full effect. And yes, you are about to experience what it feels like when God doesn't just open a door, but rebuilds the entire structure around your calling. So, get ready. Because what's coming next will prove that every moment you trusted him in the dark was preparing you to walk in his light. Let me show you what that light looks like. Now we're going to talk about something that might make you uncomfortable at first, but by the end it's going to set you free. Because there's an exchange happening right now in the spirit realm that you need to understand. A divine transaction, a holy reversal, and it's going to change everything about how you see your story. What if I told you that the rejection that broke your heart was actually redirection saving your life? That the loss you're still grieving wasn't God taking something away. It was God repositioning you for something better. What if every single thing you thought destroyed you was actually the exact ingredient needed to construct your destiny? Chosen one you've been carrying. Pain like it's a life sentence. Like it's permanent. Like the wound defines you more than the healing. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. In God's economy, nothing is wasted. Not your tears. Not your trauma, not your betrayal, not your breakdown. Everything, every single thing gets translated into power when you surrender it to the one who makes all things new. You know what gold looks like before it's refined dirt, rock, something you'd walk past without a second glance. But when that ore gets thrown into the fire, when the heat becomes unbearable, when the pressure feels like it's going to destroy everything, that's when the impurities burn away. That's when what's worthless separates from what's valuable. That's when the gold emerges, pure, gleaming, worth more than it ever could have been without the fire. You've been in the fire, haven't you? You thought it was hell, but it was the refinery. You thought you were being destroyed, but you were being purified. And what's emerging from you now, this strength, this clarity, this unshakable faith that wasn't there before, that's the gold. That's what the fire was for. That's why it had to burn so hot and last so long. Let me take you back to those nights. You know the ones I'm talking about. The nights you almost gave up. The nights you stared at the ceiling wondering if you had the strength to face another day. The nights you whispered prayers that felt more like gasps for air than conversations with God. The nights you questioned everything, your worth, your purpose, your faith, even your will to keep going. I know those nights, and so does God. He was there, not watching from a distance, not ignoring your cries. He was there collecting every tear in a bottle, recording every moment of your faithfulness, taking notes on your perseverance because He knew that what you were enduring was forging something in you that couldn't be created any other way. Here's the spiritual truth that's going to shift everything. Everything you thought was taken from you was actually being transferred to your future. Every sacrifice you made, every dream that died, every moment you had to let go of something you loved, it wasn't loss, it was investment. God was taking what belonged to your old season and converting it into currency for your new one. You weren't losing, you were being upgraded. And the pain you felt during the exchange, that was the transaction fee for accessing a dimension of blessing you couldn't have reached without it. You've been looking at your scars like they're evidence of your defeat. But God's been looking at them as proof of your survival. You see damage. He sees documentation. You see brokenness. He sees breakthrough. You see what didn't work out. He sees what He worked out in you while it was falling apart around you. There's a massive difference between the two perspectives, and it's time you started seeing yourself through heaven's lens instead of hell's lies. The pain you carried is being translated into power, not metaphorically, not eventually, right now, in this moment. The empathy you can now offer someone in crisis that came from your crisis, the wisdom you carry that people half your age don't possess, that came from your wilderness, the unshakable faith that survived when everything else fell apart, that came from the moments when you had nothing left to hold on to except God. You didn't just survive the storm, chosen one. You became the lighthouse for everyone still lost in it. This is the divine exchange. Your mourning for His joy, your ashes for His beauty, your despair for His praise, your weakness for His strength, your confusion for His clarity, your emptiness for His fullness. And here's what makes it holy. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to be perfect to receive it. You just have to be willing to release what's dead, willing to receive what's alive, willing to stop clinging to the pain and start embracing the purpose. I need you to sit with this for a moment. Just breathe. Let this truth settle into the deepest part of your spirit. Everything you went through had meaning. The nights you cried, the days you barely survived, the seasons you thought would kill you, they were all part of a master plan that you couldn't see because you were inside it, but now you're beginning to see the design, the pattern, the purpose woven through every painful thread. God never wastes pain. He redeems it. He recycles it. He transforms it into something that not only heals you, but heals everyone your life touches. That's the divine exchange. That's the holy reversal. That's what it means when Scripture says, He works all things together for good. Not some things, all things. Even the things that broke you. Especially the things that broke you. So if you've ever wondered why it had to happen that way, why the betrayal, why the loss, why the delay, why the pain, I want you to do something right now. Whisper it out loud, just between you and God. Say, "Thank you, Lord," because now you know. Now you see. Now you understand that what felt like punishment was actually preparation. What looked like an ending was actually a beginning. And what you thought destroyed you was actually the very thing that built you into who you were always meant to become. The exchange is complete. The pain has been translated. And the power is yours now. So the question is, what are you going to do with it? Chosen. One, can you feel it? That tremor in your spirit that wasn't there before. That electric stillness before the storm of blessing. The air around you feels different because heaven has entered motion. You are no longer being delayed. You are being delivered. What once felt stagnant is now alive with movement. The angels assigned to your destiny are in motion. The gates that wouldn't open before are now swinging wide by divine command. The pathways that were blocked are clearing. The resistance that once held you down is crumbling. And the waiting that once defined you is dissolving under the weight of God's power. This is the sound of divine acceleration. You can't see it fully yet, but you can sense it like the low hum of thunder before the rain breaks open the sky. Heaven has shifted. The coordinates have changed. You're no longer on standby, you're on schedule. What was blocked is now being released. What was delayed is now being accelerated. What was hidden is now being revealed. Every moment you thought was wasted has been redeemed. Every seed you planted in faith, every tear you sowed in silence is sprouting beneath the surface. God was never still. He was strategic. While you felt forgotten, He was forming your breakthrough. While you were doubting, He was designing. And now, the design is complete. The release has been ordered. The movement has begun. Listen to me, chosen one. The delay you endured wasn't denial. It was divine pacing. Heaven never runs late. It waits for alignment. You weren't being punished, you were being positioned. The ground that refused to give fruit is now trembling under the command of growth. The season that felt barren is about to burst into bloom. The prayers that seemed unanswered were never ignored. They were stored, waiting for the fullness of time. And that time is now. You've stepped into the current of divine flow. This is not chance. This is not coincidence. This is command. The heavens are responding to God's word concerning your life. The same voice that said, "Let there be light," has just spoken over your situation. Let there be movement. The winds of change have heard it. The waters of favor have begun to rise. The systems of the world are rearranging to make space for your ascension. Think of it this way: when a great orchestra begins its crescendo, every instrument that was silent now comes alive. Violins swell, drums thunder, brass blazes, and together the sound becomes unstoppable. That's what's happening in the spirit realm right now. Heaven's orchestra has entered your measure. The conductor has lifted his hand and declared, "Now." The angels are striking their chords. The sound of your destiny is rising. You've waited long enough. The stillness has served its purpose. It was never about inactivity. It was about alignment. And now that you are aligned, heaven has no choice but to move. The gates that were rusted shut are breaking loose. The chains that once clung to your progress are snapping. The locks that held your future hostage are being shattered by light. Chosen, one, can you feel it? That holy current running through your spirit. That's not adrenaline. That's anointing. That's not emotion. That's elevation. You are being lifted. You are being carried. God Himself has placed you on the river of His motion, and it will not stop until it delivers you into promise. You see, divine motion doesn't happen gradually. It happens suddenly. Suddenly, Joseph was called from the dungeon to the throne. Suddenly, Peter's prison chains fell, and the gates opened by themselves. Suddenly, the Red Sea parted, and Israel walked through on dry ground. That's what divine motion looks like. It doesn't ask permission, it issues command. When heaven decides it's time, even nature obeys. And right now, everything around you is obeying that same voice. The circumstances that resisted you are yielding. The hearts that were hard toward you are softening. The doors that ignored your knocking are opening inward without you touching them. You don't have to force it, you only have to flow with it. Because here's the truth: when God moves, He moves everything. He doesn't just bless one area, He orchestrates a chain reaction. Your finances shift, your relationships heal, your body strengthens, your mind clears, your spirit catches fire. It's never one dimension, it's total transformation. You're about to witness what happens when heaven fully focuses on your name. You've prayed, "Lord, when will it be my turn?" And heaven whispers back, "Now." You've cried, "How long must I wait?" And God responds, "The waiting has done its work. You are no longer waiting for the promise. The promise is waiting for you to step into its frequency, and you've finally matched it. You're vibrating with readiness. Can you feel the tension releasing? That's what breakthrough sounds like. Heaven's hands have touched the walls that confined you, and they are collapsing like dust. The delay that once haunted you has expired. The label of "almost there" is being replaced with "arrived." Every unseen force that tried to hold you is trembling now, because God's decree cannot be undone. And if you can sense the shift, type "God is moving" and declare it aloud. Because He is not tomorrow, not someday now. Declare it over your home, over your health, over your finances, over your children. God is moving. The tremor you feel in your soul is heaven's confirmation. You are being delivered into destiny. Let this truth shake the doubt out of your bones. Delay was never meant to define you. It was meant to refine you. You were never stuck. You were being synchronized. And now that the synchronization is complete, the motion cannot be reversed. Heaven's momentum is irreversible once it starts. Every angel assigned to your destiny is now stepping into place. They're clearing the road ahead, pushing back resistance, carrying the weight of provision, guidance, and protection. You are not walking alone. You are being escorted by the very hands of heaven. What was hard will become effortless. What was confusing will become clear. What was heavy will lift. This is the season where you don't push, you glide. You don't beg, you receive. You don't chase, you attract. Because you are in divine motion, carried by divine timing, shielded by divine favor. The same God who guided Moses through the Red Sea is guiding you now through your transition, through your breakthrough, through your crossing. And when you look back, you'll realize that the waiting wasn't wasted. It was the setup for acceleration. God wasn't making you wait for blessing. He was making the blessing wait for you to mature enough to hold it. You had to become the vessel that could withstand the flow. And now that you are ready, the floodgates are open. So, lift your head, chosen one. This is your moment to move with heaven. The clouds of delay are dispersing. The sky of your life is clearing. The light is breaking through the horizon. What was once a whisper is now a roar. The trumpet of destiny is sounding over your life, and nothing can silence it. Feel the rhythm of this moment, the hum of divine speed under your feet. You're not chasing it, you're carried by it. You're not forcing it, you're flowing in it. Heaven has moved, and everything connected to you is responding. This is holy momentum. This is supernatural velocity. This is the moment when everything starts making sense. The angels are in motion. The gates are open. The heavens are speaking. The river is rising. You are no longer being delayed. You are being delivered. And nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop what God has set in motion. Chosen one, take a breath. Do you feel that peace in the air? The stillness after the storm? That's not emptiness, that's arrival. You are no longer waiting for the sign, you are the sign. You are the evidence that faith works, that prayers are heard, that endurance is never wasted. Every trial you survived was shaping this very moment. What others called delay was actually divine design preparing your unveiling. The cocoon didn't confine you. It prepared your wings. It had to be dark so the light inside you could grow strong enough to break through. It had to be quiet so your identity could find its voice without the noise of the world. You didn't come out weaker. You came out radiant. The same people who once questioned your silence will soon witness your transformation. You don't need to prove anything. Your presence will preach louder than your words. The chaos has quieted because the purpose has matured. What once felt like confusion now feels like clarity. The storm that used to shake you now only reminds you of how deeply you're anchored. You've gone from surviving the wind to commanding it. This peace you feel isn't random, it's recognition. Heaven knows you're ready. Earth is about to see why. You are walking into rooms you used to only dream about. Doors are opening, not because you knocked harder, but because you've become the vibration that those doors were designed to recognize. You don't have to chase what's meant for you anymore. It's finding you because your frequency has finally matched your favor. You are not who you were. You are evidence. Evidence that God restores. Evidence that broken seasons still birth beauty. Evidence that silence still sings. You used to pray for a sign, but now your life is the sign. The transformation wasn't just about what you'd receive, it was about who you'd become. And here's the truth. You will not need to explain this glow. God's glory will explain it for you. People will wonder how you healed, how you rose, how you kept your peace when everything around you was chaos. But you'll know. You'll know that it was the hand of God, unseen, steady, sculpting you quietly until the unveiling was complete. Chosen one, this glow you carry isn't from achievement, it's from alignment. It's the light of someone who's been refined by obedience and restored by grace. You are not chasing blessings anymore, you're carrying them. Everywhere you go, the atmosphere shifts because heaven walks with you. This unveiling is not loud, it's sacred. It's subtle, but undeniable, like dawn breaking through a long night. You won't need to announce it. You won't need validation. When God reveals His glory through you, it speaks for itself. If this word is burning in your chest, write amen and receive your unveiling. Because this is not coming, it's happening, right here, right now. The light you carry is proof that waiting was never in vain. The world will see the radiance, but heaven already sees the reason. Father, we thank you. Every delay, every detour, every moment of silence, it was all part of your divine design. We didn't understand it then, but we know now. You were positioning us, molding us, preparing us for the blessing that was always meant to find us. And now we stand in the quiet assurance that you are near. Right now, wherever you are, I invite you to lift your hands. Let this act of surrender be your sign, a sign of readiness, a sign of peace. Receive this stillness. Feel the weight of the world lift from your shoulders as you enter the presence of the one who holds all things in His hands. You are not waiting anymore. You are receiving. Chosen one, this is the moment when everything shifts. The peace you feel right now is proof that heaven has been moving on your behalf. This week, you will see what you've been sensing. The doors will open, the answers will come, and the shift that's been silently brewing will speak louder than any doubt. You have aligned with divine timing. The waiting is over. What once seemed impossible is now inevitable. What you've trusted for in the quiet will now be revealed in full glory. The light that you've carried through the darkness is about to shine, and you, chosen one, are the vessel of this divine outpouring. If this message has confirmed what your spirit has already known, type "I receive it" in the comments below. Share this word with someone who's been waiting for their sign, their breakthrough, their divine moment. You are not alone in this journey. This movement, this moment, it's for all of us. The peace you feel now is your confirmation. The shift has begun, and heaven is already moving on your behalf.